6:30, April 10th, Friday. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the severe weather threat that's upcoming across the region on Sunday, April 12th, and it's going to extend into Monday, April 13th. So here, situation overview. We're looking at increasing potential for severe weather outbreaks across much of the area. The primary thing we're going to be looking at is the strong squall line that's expected to pass through the area late Sunday into Monday. And along the squall line, we could see embedded tornadoes, and we're definitely expecting widespread damaging winds with the thunderstorms in the squall line. Ahead of the front, we are expecting strong sub-severe wind gusts, wind speed, anywhere from around 25 to 35 miles an hour. But we also want folks to be ready for gusts ahead of the main line of thunderstorms, possibly reaching as high as 45 miles an hour. Because of these strong and increased winds, especially over the northern Gulf waters, we are expecting the possibility for a minor coastal flood threat late Sunday to Monday. I'll go into more details later. And then, again, we're expecting damaging winds along the squall line, and we're concerned about the possibility for some embedded tornadoes. But we can't rule out an isolated storm ahead of the line, potentially one of those isolated supercells ahead of the line, possibly having a tornado. That's something we'll have to keep an eye out for. All right, so here's the latest Storm Prediction Center outlook for Sunday, April 12th. We had SVC, when they put that out this morning, they gave much of the area an enhanced risk for severe weather with the risk tapering off as you go to the southeast. The risk is a little bit lower to the southeast because as this squall line moves through, we're going to start seeing, eventually we're going to start seeing it weaken, but what we're uncertain about is when that weakening is going to occur. I'm not sure areas in southeast Big Bend are going to see much severe weather with this, but if they do, it's going to be on Monday. But again, squall line is going to be progressing into the area from the west sometime late Sunday, and going to be affecting us in the overnight hours. We're expecting damaging wind gusts and the possibility for embedded tornadoes. And because it's going to be passing through overnight, we want to make sure that everyone in the public has a way to get has multiple ways of getting warnings. We've seen what nighttime tornadoes can do across the United States, and we want to make sure everybody is ready to receive warning at a moment's notice and take action. As we go into Monday, the severe weather threat is going to continue, but again, as I mentioned in the last slide, we are going to be seeing the squall line eventually weaken as it moves into eastern portions of the forecast area and eastern portions of the United States. So here's the SPC's Day 4 outlook, generally keeping a slight risk of severe thunderstorms all across the eastern U.S. and the eastern parts of our area. And with this line, we're still expecting the same threats to continue, damaging wind gusts and possibly an isolated brief tornado along the squall line. But again, this threat is going to be lower the further east you go. So here's the more information about the strong winds ahead of the squall line. So I want to emphasize that this isn't going to be these aren't the kind of wind gusts we're expecting with thunderstorms along the line, but these are going to be ahead of it. We have the most confidence in western parts of the forecast area with these strong winds beginning to pick up Sunday morning into the afternoon hours. With the strongest winds are likely to be just along the squall line just before it moves through the area. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the squall line will be weakening a little bit as we get to our eastern areas like Perry, Valdosta, Tipton, and other areas near the I-75 corridor. And with that said, we have less confidence of the listed wind gusts reaching those values, but we want to mention that it is possible we could see wind gusts as high as 35 to 40 miles an hour in the east. And then in the western areas and the western Florida Panhandle and southeast Alabama, wind gusts could approach 45 miles an hour in some areas. We're expecting the possibility for sporadic power outages. Any trees that have been weakened by recent severe weather or just any trees that are weak in general could be felled in these kind of winds, so we want folks to be ready for that. These strong winds are also going to bring the possibility for a coastal flood threat. We've seen over the last day that this coastal flood threat has increased across much of the Appalachia Bay. We want to stress that minor coastal flooding up to 2 feet is possible along the immediate coast on Monday. We were noticing that as this front comes through, if it slows down any, we are a little bit concerned if it slows down a little bit with the possibility of minor flooding reaching these northern areas of Appalachia Bay, because as we go overnight Monday, we're going to see low tide, but then as we go into Monday morning into early Monday morning, as we go into Monday morning and the later period of Monday morning, we are going to see that tide come back in, and that could, if the system slows down a little bit, we could see increased coastal flooding potential across the area. Again, at most, we're looking at minor coastal flooding. And if the front comes through as advertised right now, impacts will be low to minor across much of the Gulf Coast. But again, we want folks to be ready for the possibility for some minor coastal flooding along the northern Appalachia Bay. Rainfall is not going to be a threat with this system, really. We're not expecting a heavy rain. With the squall line beginning to weaken as it gets into central portions of the forecast area and parts along the I-75 corridor, we're going to see the rainfall amounts start to taper off a bit. We're only expecting generally around 1 to 2 across the area, so the flood threat's going to be low. What we do want folks to keep an eye out for is, because the heaviest rain is going to be north of the area across parts of northern Alabama, northern Georgia, we could see increased river levels later this week, but that's more of a long-term threat, looking at 7 days out. Not really going to be a threat in the near term. That's all I have for the weather for you guys. We just want to remind you that if you're on NWS chat, I want to make sure you guys get signed up for that. We are going to be, as the squall line moves through the area, and if any storms form ahead of it, we are going to be kind of giving some situation overviews, like maybe every hour or two as the stuff comes through the area. And we are going to be staffed we are staffed 24/7, so we're going to have folks updating NWS chat in the overnight hours too, if you guys are going to be up monitoring this weather as well. Make sure you do it as soon as possible so we can get folks approved. And just going through here, a quick summary of what I talked about. We are looking at the increasing potential for severe weather outbreaks across the area. The main threat is going to be a strong squall line passing through the area, which should bring widespread damaging winds and the possibility for embedded tornadoes along this line. But we can't rule out an isolated tornado and a supercell ahead of this main squall line. So be vigilant about that. Have your radar open all day, and if you can, keep an eye on it overnight too. And then again, we're expecting some strong sub-severe wind speeds around 25 to 35 miles an hour, but can't rule out gusts up to 45 miles an hour. And that's going to bring an increasing coastal flood threat across the area on Monday. That's all I have for you guys. We just want to make sure, the last thing I want to add, please let us know if you have any restrictions on sheltering due to social distancing measures ongoing. We just want to make sure that we have a coordinated message with you guys so we can, as one agency for the public, we can make sure we get the consistent message out there. So let us know if you have any restrictions on sheltering due to social distancing measures. Mark Gould, the Warning Coordination Meteorologist, believe he's going to be sending an email out asking for that kind of information. So if you could get back to that email, if you have anything, that'd be great to let us know. That's all I have for you guys. The next webinar is going to be planned for Saturday, April 11th at 2:30 p.m. And if you have any questions, you can call us at any time, and you can reach out to us on NWS chat as well. If you hang on a sec, I'm going to stop the recording and then open up for questions.
Call recording is off. All participants are now muted. Press star 6 to unmute your line.
All right, so I put the webinar in question and answer mode. If you guys have a question, please hit star 6 on your mic or on your phone, and that will unmute your line. If you have any questions, hit star 6. But that concludes the webinar.
Hey, this is Steve Dancer up here at Albany.
Oh, okay, I heard Steve and Albany. Let's go ahead with Steve first, and then we'll jump to Albany.
I'm expecting you're going to have better timing graphics tomorrow, but do you have any idea through such part of your forecast area, Albany being the center, of what you're looking at for time for the squall line to arrive?
Hey, so it's a little too early for when we're going to see to further refine the time of the squall line moving through, but we are expecting generally it's going to be in the overnight hours through central parts of the forecast area. But we want folks and everywhere to be ready for an arrival possibly as early as Sunday evening, but we could see things be pushing a little bit later in the evening up to like early Monday morning for you guys in Albany. So again, we'll have more timing information tomorrow as we get a little bit more, as things become a little bit more clear.
Gotcha, thanks.
All right. Again, if you have questions, star 6, unmute your line.
Yeah, this is Ashley in Lowndes.
Hey, Ashley, what I can do for you?
So I've got one of our concerns is, and this may be something you just try and work on for us tomorrow's webinar, but the timing of when the strongest winds might exit our area, because looking at the hourly weather graph, It kind of looks like the main line of storms is probably going to be exited at 6, 7 a.m. Monday morning. And so our public health people are trying to make a decision as to what they need to do with their specimen collection sites on Monday morning, whether they need to shut them down for the whole day, open them later. So any advice, whether you've got some you can give us now as far as exit timing, or if that's something y'all can speak to maybe a little better tomorrow, so that we can advise them what they need to do for planning purposes.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So actually, we're going to have a lot better idea of that tomorrow. But generally, we're going to see the strong winds with thunderstorms pushed out of the area generally sometime in the morning Monday, especially across our eastern areas. But we want to stress that there is still the potential it could slow down a little bit, which could extend some impacts in our eastern areas like Valdosta and other areas on the I-75 corridor, could extend those impacts a little bit later into the morning on Monday. So we're going to be able to get a better idea of that tomorrow. So we'll make sure to we're stressing to put timing graphics in our stuff for tomorrow.
Good deal. And one last question, and based on what I think I heard you say this afternoon, we've got a lot of, I won't say a lot, but we have several churches that are planning to have drive-in services where everybody just parks in the parking lot for Easter Sunday. And it did not look like the pre-frontal winds or the squall. Didn't look like the winds would be here by early morning, noontime on Sunday to really affect those drive-in services. But I want to make sure that I didn't misinterpret that.
Yeah, it looks like the strongest winds, especially with things kind of looking like they've been slowing down a little bit, the strongest pre-frontal winds, at least especially for areas in the east, will take a little bit later in the day to arrive. But that's something we're going to be able to give a little bit more information on tomorrow, and we'll put timing graphics for both the squall line and also the pre-frontal winds tomorrow. But from the things I've looked at so far, it looks like at least in the morning hours in our eastern areas, the strong pre-frontal winds should hold off until the afternoon or evening hours.